The first letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, slipped into my mailbox like a passive-aggressive greeting card. I was carrying my coffee to the front porch when I saw it. A crisp white envelope with citation printed in aggressive red letters across the front. I tore it open, curiosity mixing with irritation. Dear resident, it began, and I already knew this was going to be good. Your property at 1247 Oakmont Drive has been found in violation of Pinehurst Estates, HOA Code Section 4.7, be unauthorized vehicle parking. Your work truck has been parked in your driveway for more than 48 consecutive hours, creating an eyesore for the community. Please remedy this violation within 72 hours or face a fine of $150. I read it twice, then laughed out loud. The sound echoed across my 5-acre property, probably carrying all the way to the cookie-cutter development that had sprung up next door 3 years ago. My work truck, the one I used for my landscaping business, parked in my own driveway, on my own property that I'd owned for 15 years. I crumpled the letter and tossed it in the recycling bin. The second letter came 4 days later, then a third, each one more insistent. The fines escalating. $150. $300, $500. By the fifth letter, I was ready to respond. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number printed at the bottom of the latest citation. A woman answered on the second ring, her voice dripping with the kind of sugary professionalism that barely masked contempt. Pinehurst Estates HOA, this is Patricia speaking. How may I help you? Yeah, hi. This is James Corrigan at 1247 Oakmont Drive. I've been getting these letters about my truck, and I think there's been some kind of mistake. Oh, Mr. Corrigan. Her tone shifted, became sharper. Yes, we've sent several notices. You accumulated quite a bit in fines. We really do need you to comply with community standards. That's the thing. I said, keeping my voice level. I'm not part of your community. I'm not in your HOA. Silence. Then a condescending laugh. Mr. Corrigan, your property is clearly within the Pinehurst Estates boundaries. I'm looking at the map right now. You're on Oakmont Drive, which is part of our development. Your development is next to my property. I corrected. My land has been here since 2009. Your development was built in 2021. I was here first. That's irrelevant, Patricia said, her patience clearly thinning. If you're on our streets, you're subject to our rules. That's how HOAs work. I'm not on your streets. I'm on my property. Oakmont Drive is a Pinehurst Estate street, sir. Actually, I said, you might want to check your records on that. She huffed. Mr. Corrigan, I don't have time for games. If you don't comply within 48 hours, we'll be forced to take legal action. Good day. She hung up. I stood there holding my phone, shaking my head. This was going to get worse before it got better. I could feel it. I was right. 2 weeks later, I was in my garage working on a client's lawn mower when I heard the crunch of gravel. I looked up to see a police cruiser pulling into my driveway, followed by a silver Mercedes. The Mercedes parked behind the cruiser, and out stepped Patricia. I recognized her from the HOA meetings I'd watched from my porch, purely for entertainment, along with a man in an expensive suit. The police officer approached first. He was young, probably mid-20s, and he looked uncomfortable. Sir, are you James Corrigan? That's me, I said, wiping grease from my hands with a shop towel. I'm Officer Daniels. I received a complaint from the Pinehurst Estates HOA about multiple violations and your refusal to comply with community standards. Patricia stepped forward, her heels clicking on the concrete. He's been ignoring our notices for weeks. He's in violation of at least 6 different codes. His lawn is 2 inches too tall, he has. Ma'am, the officer said gently, let me handle this. He turned back to me. Sir, are you a member of this HOA? No, I said simply. He is. Patricia insisted, her face flushing. His property is within our development boundaries. My property predates your development by 12 years, I said calmly. I never signed any HOA agreement because I'm not part of your HOA. You built around me. The man in the suit stepped forward. I'm Richard Thornton, president of the Pinehurst Estates HOA board. Mr. Corrigan, you're being unreasonable, whether you joined voluntarily or not. Your property is now surrounded by our community. You benefit from our maintained streets and landscaping. You need to contribute and comply. I smiled. Your streets. Yes, our streets. Maintained by HOA fees that you're not paying, I might add. Officer, I said, I think we need to clear something up. Can you give me 1 minute? He nodded, looking relieved to step back from the escalating argument. I walked into my house and returned with a folder I'd been keeping for exactly this moment. I handed it to Officer Daniels. Those are the property deeds and records for this entire area. If you check page 7, you'll see something interesting. The officer flipped through the documents, his brow furrowing. He stopped at page 7, read it carefully, then looked up at me with wide eyes. Is this accurate? Recorded with the county in 2010. I confirmed. Patricia snatched the papers from his hands. What? What does it say? She scanned the page, her face going from pink to red to an alarming shade of purple. Richard grabbed the document from her, and I watched the color drain from his face. This can't be right, Richard whispered. Oh, it's right, I said. See, when I bought this property 15 years ago, I bought a lot more than just the 5 acres my house sits on. I bought the access rights and the private roads that lead to what was then farmland. When the developer wanted to build Pinehurst Estates, they needed access. So they made a deal with me. They could use the roads, Oakmont Drive, Maple Street, and Birchwood Lane, but they remain under my ownership. I collect a lease payment every year from the development company. It's not much, but it covers the property taxes on those roads. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You own our streets? Technically, yes. The HOA has an agreement with the original developer to maintain them, but legally, they're mine. It's all in the easement contract, which means functionally, you've been sending threatening letters and fines to your landlord. Officer Daniels bit back a smile. So there's no violation here? No violation of any laws, I confirmed. HOA rules don't apply to me because I'm not a member and I never will be. My lawyer made sure that was ironclad when we negotiated the road access. Richard's hands were shaking. But we've sent you thousands in fines, which I won't be paying, I said cheerfully, and which, honestly, I could probably sue you for harassment over. But I'm not a litigious guy. Patricia looked like she might faint. Everyone will know. The whole board. The residents. We called the police on the man who owns our roads. You probably should have checked your own development's legal documents before escalating, I said. It's all public record. Officer Daniels handed the folder back to me. Mr. Corrigan, I think we're done here. Sir, ma'am, unless there's an actual law being broken, this is a civil matter. And from what I can see, there's no case here. He walked back to his cruiser, clearly eager to escape the awkward situation. Richard and Patricia stood in my driveway, looking like they'd just watched their world collapse. So what now? Richard finally asked, his voice small. I shrugged. Now, nothing. You keep maintaining the streets like your agreement says. I keep living my life. And maybe your HOA learns to do basic research before harassing people. You thought you could bully someone into compliance. I interrupted. That's what HOAs do, right? Send threatening letters, escalate fines, call the cops. You just never expected to meet someone who actually knew their rights. Patricia opened her mouth, then closed it again. She turned and walked back to her Mercedes without another word. Richard lingered for a moment. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I'm sorry. We should have handled this differently. Yes, I agreed. You should have. He followed Patricia to her car, and they drove away, leaving twin trails of dust on the road I owned. I went back to my garage, back to the lawn mower I'd been fixing. But I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face. The letter I had crumpled weeks ago was still in the recycling bin, and I fished it out, smoothing it on my workbench. Creating an eyesore for community, I read aloud, then laughed. 3 days later, the HOA sent one final letter. It was short, apologetic, and promised that I would receive no further contact from them. They'd also corrected their records to clearly indicate that 1247 Oakmont Drive was not part of Pinehurst Estates. I framed that letter and hung it in my garage, right next to my workbench. Every time I see it, I remember the look on their faces when they realized who really owned the streets they'd been so proud of. My work truck is still parked in my driveway. My lawn is whatever height I want to be. And the Pinehurst Estates HOA has learned a valuable lesson about reading the fine print. As for me, I'm just a guy with 5 acres, a landscaping business, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the little guy wins, even when the little guy happens to own all the roads.